Let's get this party started!
He's shining a light in the dark corners of our media.
You are fake news.
Our government.
Handling of classified documents.
And our culture.
Don't trust anyone.
It's common sense amidst chaos.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Here's your host, Ike Wingate.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the show. It is great to have you with us today as the shutdown is almost over. They're going to be voting Wednesday in the House. The Senate has passed basically the thing that they've been fighting against the entire time, the Democrats. So the Democrats have a lot of egg on their face. Meanwhile, the country was held hostage for 40 plus days, and all that time they could have been negotiating, but they were not. They were engaging in political theater at the expense of so many hardworking Americans in the military, in the air traffic control, and other places to score political points with, but they didn't. Not at all. And so there's a huge implosion happening right now, and they are out for blood again, for Chuck Schumer and the Democrat Party. And it's pretty entertaining to watch, got to be honest with you, right? So we're going to get into that. We will get into, of course, today being Veterans Day. Thank you, veterans. Your sacrifice is immeasurable, and we are so grateful to you. There is no greater love than one that would lay down his life for a friend. Let's see, I'm just... sending a text to a vet right now that I was texting with earlier. Okay, what else are we going to get to? Well, some of your chats, some of your comments as well. Hold on. Sorry, I can't do. Okay. Republican infighting is also happening, which is not good. The Middle Eastern conflict has just totally put the Republican Party at odds against one another. So we'll talk a little bit about that. President Trump has proposed, Pulte, his housing guy, has proposed this 50-year mortgage. What do you think about this 50-year mortgage? And a 15-year car loan. Not a fan, got to say, not a fan of those ideas. Big drop coming later this week. The news came out today. A trove of files, the Clinton corruption files, is what we're told they are called. And we're hearing that Pam Bondi, Kash Patel are going to be releasing, hopefully, this investigation that was called off by President Obama into the Clinton Foundation. Apparently, they've found some things that maybe were meant to be destroyed. Plus, Antifa attacks the TPUSA event at UC Berkeley last night, and the nasty things they were saying outside that event. The January 6th Pipebomber has been identified, or have they? And Jimmy Kimmel's wife has, separated and severed relationships with conservative family members. It's like they're in a cult, my friends. And so we're going to get into all of that and more today. You can help us out by giving us a heart heart the post and repost on X right now. Give us a thumbs up and repost on Rumble. And give us a thumbs up on all the other platforms. That's how you can help us out. Now, we're trying something different, streaming in portrait mode. We've got a version that's streaming over YouTube right now in portrait mode versus landscape. And we also have the portrait mode being streamed on Instagram. So that's a new option that we have unveiled, rolled out, whatever you want to call it today, which is pretty cool. Okay. All right. So do those things for us right now, please. Repost, share is another way of saying it. Share the post, like the post, heart the post, and get the word out as soon as possible. It helps us in the algorithm. President Trump went on the Pat McAfee show and let an oorah go. Take a look.
And that's one big oorah! New Marines, Mr. President, just oorah'd the hell out of you there for what you just said about
that's good. Well, we love them. They are a special group indeed.
Mr. President, have you ever done an oorah to a bunch of Marines?
Not the kind that I just heard. I just heard a level of professionalism with the way they did it that I don't think anybody can match it, to be honest. That's very impressive.
Mr. President, why don't you drop one? Mr. President, why don't you drop an oorah real quick?
I will. Hoorah!
Yes. Okay. We love everything about that. Let's pivot away from obviously all the great work that the VA and you all are trying to do for our vets and our military.
All right. So thank you, veterans, for your service. We want to make sure that you feel appreciated today. It is immeasurable, the sacrifice that you've been willing to make for our country, and we are grateful. So thank you for your service, and oorah! And Pat McAfee got a lot of crap for talking to the president. And so he addressed that and said, look, it's the president of the United States. Of course we're going to talk to him if we get the opportunity. And also, he was hilarious, is what he went on to say. So, come on. It's ridiculous, the amount of tribalism and sort of cultish activity. You may not like listening to President Trump. We didn't like listening to President Biden, but we understood that if someone got the opportunity to interview the president, they were going to do it. Just so happened with Biden, it didn't happen very often because the dude was asleep most of the time or shuffling around trying to figure out where he was. Okay, so miss me with that, as they say, right? Okay, so getting back to this whole egg on the face for Democrats. Let me tell you, this was a huge loss for Democrats. Basically, you had this splintering off of about 8 Democrat senators that happened over the weekend, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse as far as flights being canceled. They were scaling back the air traffic control because, people aren't coming to work because they're not getting paid for over a month. Now, President Trump says he's going to give $10,000 to any air traffic controller that worked through the shutdown. So you're rewarded when you have some loyalty and consistency, which I have no problem with that. Nice little bump. But they really were flirting with disaster. I told you that last week. That the longer the shutdown goes on, there's some kind of air disaster. All hell is going to break loose. So I'm thankful that they are getting this thing back on track, but it's kind of crazy. You got people that should have been being paid for their work, right? So I get that. But obviously we know there's a lot of parts of our government that are don't really affect our day-to-day life. So it's shut down for 40 days. Did you really feel it? Maybe if you tried to go, get a new passport or something like that. And obviously the air travel was being affected more so late versus previously. But it's basically like, Kmart got shut down and nobody noticed and they opened it back up and you're like, oh, okay. All right. Well, didn't really notice it was gone, but okay. But the political damage to the Democrat Party, perception-wise, is one thing, but internally, it's another thing because you've got them calling for the heads of Schumer. We're going to show you some of those posts out there. But over the weekend, Kristen Welker on NBC called out Hakeem Jeffries when we're talking about this proposal, the very proposal they turned down and held our government hostage and the American people hostage for 40 days was the pretty much exact same proposal they said yes to over in the Senate.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer did make a new offer, effectively saying, let's extend Obamacare subsidies for 1 year in exchange for reopening the government for 1 year. You have said that you would support that proposal, but just last month you said this. Take a look.
A 1 year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits is not acceptable. It's a non-starter. It's a non-starter.
So, Leader Jeffries, what changed?
Oops.
Well, the proposal that I was making reference to in October was something that was floated out there by a handful of rank and file House Republicans, and that was immediately rejected by House Republican leadership because they have no interest in driving down the high cost of living for everyday Americans. The Schumer proposal, of course, was offered in good faith.
Leader Jeffries.
Okay, so he didn't answer the question. By the way, can anyone tell me why Hakeem Jeffries is the Speaker of the House? I mean, this guy is one of the biggest duds there is. I mean, this is a DEI hire. It's got to be. Because, it doesn't make any sense because the guy he is so boring. And I dropped the dollar store Obama reference about him. I don't know. Is that politically incorrect? Is that taboo? Excuse me. I don't know if it is or not, but I said it. I said what I said because the guy is so uninteresting, so uninspiring. I'll play that for you from this morning on Wake Up America on Newsmax.
Others not ready to give up the fight just yet. They call it a fight against Donald Trump. Take a listen.
And we'll continue to wage this fight. No matter what comes over to us from the United States Senate, we're not going to support a partisan Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. And we're going to continue the fight.
So fact check on the minority leader. It is a continuation of the Biden budget that Democrats previously supported multiple times. It's not a partisan budget. It's their budget. So now their plan is to double down and give taxpayer-funded health care to illegals and people who make nearly $500,000 a year. I don't see what the strategy is here.
If you watch Hakeem Jeffries, there's no inspiration that's going to be gleaned from that. I mean, I almost went to sleep because we have the dollar store Obama speech happening there where it's like, hey, you're not inspiring anybody. You don't have any leverage to negotiate. And again, people do have memories despite them being short. As you said, Mark, this is exactly what everyone approved already. And so it seems like manufactured outrage over the same spending. Chuck Schumer has big problems in the Senate, I would argue as well. And after all of this fatigue and everything that's happened, Hakeem Jeffries wants to come out and say they're going to fight completely tone deaf, and it's going to land flat with the American people. Okay. Dollar store Obama. Timu Obama, maybe, is another one that they like to say. Okay, what else did we talk about? Let me see. Is there anything else from this morning that would be worth playing? Let's see here. All right, we'll do one more on the shutdown from this morning on Newsmax. Take a look.
To reopen the government, what took so long and what did Democrats get out of it?
Well, I don't know really what Democrats got out of it except for maybe egg on the face. 40 days. This entire time they could have been negotiating. That's what I'm struck with. They didn't get anything, and they're back where they were and what they turned down 40 days ago. So it's really showing that the Democrats were willing to hold the American people hostage and have nothing to show for it and have nothing but lost time now after 40 days. The one thing I think they may have done is held out for the elections because of the Virginia voters being so many federal workers. And obviously that worked to their favor. But besides that, they really didn't get anything out of it. And now, we head into this next phase. And how are they going to negotiate? They don't have a whole lot of leverage. But I don't think this is a huge surprise. But I'm glad that they are getting things back opened up so our troops and others can get paid, because that's what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was from this morning on Newsmax regarding the shutdown. Now, here's the interesting thing. It's like Tim Kaine. There are certain things you shouldn't say out loud. Okay. Do you wish you could have started looking into this off ramp sooner? Well, I wasn't really thinking about it. This is a paid senator, Tim Kaine, out of the state of Virginia. Here's what he had to say.
Do you wish that you would have started looking for this off ramp sooner? You said that Republicans were never going to change in their position.
I didn't fully understand how dug in they were, again, because I was so focused on the Virginia elections. I wasn't in this discussion on the healthcare to see how dug in they were.
In other words, you weren't doing your job.
But even as I was not part of these discussions, I was saying to Thune and others on the floor going back, listen, I need you. Some of you heard me say this in the hall. I need a moratorium on mischief. Others are working on the healthcare thing. I trust them. Others are working on the approach thing. I trust them. I need a moratorium on mischief, because if we vote to open and then the immediate step next week is Donald Trump fires a lot more people, it's going to blow up trust to get the full year deal. And so I've been preaching this moratorium on mischief for a month, but I think partly why did they finally give me the moratorium on mischief on RIFs? They needed my vote, but they also saw the election on Tuesday.
Okay, dude, you look like Gilbert from the comic strip. You obviously weren't doing your job. You had no idea what was going on. I didn't realize how dug in they were. I mean, in other words, you weren't paying attention at all. Oh, I was just really paying attention to Virginia. Okay. What did you have to do with that? You weren't running. A fuming MSNBC panel finally realizes the Democrats only kept the government shut down because they wanted to use it to help them in the elections last Tuesday. These meltdowns are they're just so pleasing, aren't they?
It's strange, Dean, to go back to the original sort of part of this conversation of whether he is a good deal maker. I mean, in a way, it seems like the president is kind of getting what he wanted 40 days ago when all this started. He was out there saying that, oh, this is all about Democrats trying to give health care to illegal immigrants. He just said that to reporters moments ago, repeated that refrain that Democrats had actually very successfully pushed back against. Then there's all this energy. In the wake of the election on Tuesday, the president made remarks saying basically, wow, Republicans are being harmed by all of this, acknowledging that he was on his back foot. And now here he is winning again. How did he do it?
The Democrats, I don't understand how a Democratic senator goes, wow, we won really big. Let me cave now. I don't understand. That makes no sense to me.
Well, maybe to Anthony's point, if they were cynical, like if we wanted just to hold this out until we get through the election, and then after the election, we got the wins,
it's
bingo. Hello. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They were just trying to manipulate the Virginia voters, who largely are a lot of them working in D.C. and some of them not getting paid and contracts being held up. And so they played off their emotions. And of course, after that happened, they move on. Because they were the ones holding it up the entire time. The whole thing looked terrible. Now, the longer it goes on, people just get frustrated with both sides. They just do. But the way that it ended, actually, I would say politically for Republicans, it was all worth it. It was all worth it. I know some people, were in uncomfortable situations, but as far as how to play it, Republicans get an A and the Democrats get an F. And it's quite obvious to me now that it had everything to do with the elections, which were places that you would expect Democrats to win. Again, the margin in New Jersey was a little higher than I expected. I was hoping for some level of morality and good versus evil in the attorney general's race there in Virginia, where they elected the guy who made death threats. What's his name? James. And so, is that his name? Whatever his name is, I've already forgotten it. Yeah. Virginia Attorney General race. I know a lot of you are shouting right now. Jay Jones. Jay Jones. Did I say James? Yeah, it is not. It is it's Jay Jones. So I was hoping for some morality, some conscience in that race, but there wasn't. So other than that, they didn't accomplish anything earth-shattering at all. The juice was not worth the squeeze, I would say. And now Democrats are imploding in on themselves. Now, Mr. Scott Jennings, of course, called all of this several days in advance on what was really going on. And God bless this guy for what he does right in the lion's den of CNN.
How are Republicans going to use leverage in their fight with Democrats when the Democrats are actually the ones with the upper hand in the eyes of voters?
Oh, I'm sure Democrats will be more than happy to open the government now. The election's over. I mean, part of the reason they shut it down was to get through tonight.
I mean, I
would suspect they'll be going to open it up by the end of the week.
Adam Schiff, he was like, hold the line.
AOC, there's lots of rumors of
she said,
people wanting
hold
to
the
open
line.
it.
Look, I don't see what is the incentive for Democrats to back down when voters are basically saying Trump's not doing enough. It's the Republicans' fault. And then they basically handed the keys in this past election to the Democrats. Where's the leverage?
Again, these are blue states electing Democrats, not a shock. Democrats clearly wanted this shutdown to get through Election Day. I do think they are facing pressure from their internal coalitions. The unions, the air traffic controllers, the government employee unions are desperate to get the government back open. They're feeling a little bit of internal heat. But again, the election's now over. I'm sure tomorrow morning phones will start ringing and it'll be open soon enough. This was a political shutdown, and that's what they did. And now we're through the election.
Okay. He called it beautifully, perfectly. Back to that MSNBC clip. How is Trump winning again? He acknowledged the problems. How is he winning again? I mean, just the shrieks are entertaining, aren't they? Ro Khanna tweeting this out. Senator Schumer no longer effective, should be replaced. If you can't lead the fight to stop healthcare premiums from skyrocketing for Americans, what will you fight for? Yeah, they are eating their own. We know that it was far more than that. Obamacare is a failed entity. You like your doctor? Keep your doctor. You like your plan? Get to keep your plan. That was a lie. That was a lie. I see David Sling is sharing this royalties rumor, I would call it. Obama was getting $2.5 million per year from taxpayers for passing Obamacare. Now, President Trump has put that out. The rumor came out that Doge cut that money, royalty payments. According to Grok, it's not actually true. That it was a satirical post on Truth Social claiming that Doge had halted that. It was kind of like a Babylon Bee thing. CNN's Jake Tapper, PolitiFact, Snopes have confirmed it's not true. And President Obama gets a standard pension. So I remember when that came out and was like, I can't believe this. This is ridiculous. Apparently, it started as satire and then became accepted as fact. Now, I could be wrong, or I should say Grok could be wrong, but that is something that has been going around as far as Obama getting royalties for them using, I guess, his name in Obamacare. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Obama to do that, but I haven't been able to find an actual source. If anybody finds it, let me know. More implosion. None other than Harry Sisson says, absolutely pathetic in his effeminate voice. I cannot believe we caved to this wannabe dictator and his goons. Thanks to the Democrats who voted no, we'll remember who bent the knee. The thing is, you had no leg to stand on, much less bending a knee, but it's always a pleasant thing when Harry Sisson gets upset. Now, Sonny Hostin on The View has turned on little Chucky Schumer as well. Take a look.
Let's be clear. The Republicans run the House. The Senate, the Republicans run the White House, the Republicans run the Supreme Court, as far as I'm concerned. This was a choice by Republicans to cut SNAP benefits. This was a choice by Republicans to cut ACA subsidies. This was a choice by the Republicans to gut the federal government and federal employment. Democrats had nothing to do with it. I want an opposition party. I think the Democrats caved. I think the Democrats let down the American people. And like you, Whoopi, I have absolutely no faith that the Republican Party will come to the negotiating table in good faith. You know, you do something like this, shame on you the first time. You do it twice, 3 times, 4 times, shame on me. Shame on the Democrats for even believing that the Republicans will, even vote on it.
Okay. All right, Sonny. Fool me once. Yeah. There's a saying down here in Texas. Okay. Fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. You're not going to fool me. Okay. Pretty soon they'll hear from all of us. They knocked down our towers. Anyway, fool me once. Okay. One thing she said there, well, many things, but saying that Republicans did this to keep SNAP benefits from happening, keep Medicaid and healthcare from. No, you dummy. Literally, this is a continuation of the funding from before, with the exception of some USAID funding and some NPR and whatever the other one funding. Those are the only things they stripped out. They clawed it back. Otherwise, it was the exact same spending plan. Now, you could point out that, some of those subsidies and things were going to expire at the end of the year. Now, at the end of January is what's being pointed out. But not right now, not during the hostage period. None of that was going to be happening. Republicans were not doing that. They sure weren't trying to withhold SNAP from anybody. But here's what's happened is all of those wasteful programs have been magnified in the American people's psyche and mind. It has been blasted out into the mainstream now just how much fraud, how much ridiculous spending is going on in the SNAP and I would say WIC programs, people buying fudge rounds and Mountain Dew and Doritos and getting fatter and fatter. Meanwhile, they don't spend all the money that they're allocated. They sell whatever they don't spend to somebody for a discount. All of that has been put out into the mainstream. And so don't think for 1 second it's not going to be a topic of conversation as they go into budget talks and conversations for what happens after January 31st. I mean, the good news is you could argue maybe for Congress is that they're not going to be up against Thanksgiving or they're not going to be up against Christmas as far as keeping the government open, because the plan that they will vote on Wednesday is to fund the government and everything through the end of January. Thune gave the Democrats a vote promise. I'll give you a vote on these ACA subsidies, these Affordable Care Act subsidies, but that's not a win for Democrats because Thune said that a week or two ago that was not something he was holding out on. So really, Democrats didn't get much of anything, which is, again, why Schumer has real trouble. Let's play the rest of this clip from Sonny Hostin on The View.
No guarantee in this New Deal that there's going to be a vote. There's no even commitment to have a vote. So the bottom line is the
That's not true.
Democrats went into this after a blue wave out of the American people saying we do want the opposition. We the working people want the Democratic Party to fight for them, and now they just caved and surrendered. I think Chuck Schumer, his days are over. If he cannot keep his caucus together, he needs to go. He needs to be
I
replaced.
completely disagree with you, Sonny, for this reason, what you rattled off. The Republicans run the executive branch.
Okay. So, you can blame Republicans all you want, but it still takes some Democrat votes in the Senate because they haven't, done away with the filibuster. So you can't say that Republicans are in control of all of it. You can't say it. It's not true. It's not true. Let me see here. My next story. Let's see here. Here we go. All right. I don't know why that reset on me. Okay. All right. So anyway, you can't say that. I mean, you still had to have the Democrats' participation, and they were the ones holding it up. Republicans weren't. Republicans were just. And this is where I go back to it was bad negotiation because you should have asked for more stuff if you're on the Republican side. I would say Mike Johnson was a little naive in saying, well, we'll just continue what we're doing spending-wise, and they'll just accept it. We're not going to make any big asks or anything, and we'll just continue it. I haven't figured out how to do an impression of him yet. He should have asked for more, and so then the compromise was, well, we'll just continue funding it at the levels that we were. Or maybe John Thune should have been pushing for that on his side. But assuming that the Democrats are just going to go along with a reasonable frame of mind and just, okay, well, we'll just continue. No, they were never going to do that. And so I don't know what it's going to take for Republicans to wake up and stop playing patty cake. I said it over the weekend on Wendy Bell's show. The Democrats are playing Hunger Games while the Republicans are, playing croquet or Monopoly. I think I said that on this show last week. Anyway, they're playing a different game. They're playing for keeps. They're playing hardball. The Democrats are. Republicans are just like, well, we're going to proceed with dignity and courtesy. What does that get you? I'm not saying, be, total jerks about it. I'm saying, you got to negotiate as if your life depends on it because the life of the country does. The status quo does not work anymore. And I wish they'd, quit pretending like it does. Quit pretending the Democrats are going to behave with some sort of decorum. It's not going to happen. Meanwhile, get rid of the filibuster. I don't want it to be gone either. Now, there is an interesting theory on the other side of the filibuster is that there is worry that there are enough moderate Republicans in the Senate that would side with Democrats to pull some shenanigans. So the filibuster could backfire on you in that way, which is something I wasn't thinking about because I'm like, oh no, we're all in this together. No, actually, there are about 10 Republican senators, at least, that you just can't trust to vote on the agenda that needs to get put through. So that's another thing to think about. I think I'd probably be willing to take that risk. I don't know. I'd have to really do the math and see, but nonetheless, that's where it's at. Now, we have this today from the Babylon Bee. Dave Ramsey in critical condition after learning of 50-year mortgage. When I first saw this, I was like, what? What happened to Dave? No, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. As in, that's a long time to be in debt. Full disclosure, I used to work for Dave Ramsey. Great, great man. Doesn't mean you have to agree with him on everything. I mean, this idea that we have to agree on everything, we agree on a lot, right? Now, people are calling Dave. He's the one with the advice to give. If you call a guy and ask him what he thinks about it, you can't argue with him when he tells you what he thinks about it. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, but this idea that everybody should agree on everything, I was having a conversation about theology earlier with a friend, and it's like, we have different ways of seeing it, but there's no reason to focus on what divides us. Focus on what unites us, right? It was not contentious at all. It was totally friendly. But it just brings back this idea of who do you agree with 100%? I mean, I don't even agree with my wife 100% of the time because she's wrong 10% of the time. Okay? And I'm joking. I'm wrong 10% of the time, so I can't get it all right, The point is, the people you are most aligned with, you're still going to disagree with on some stuff, right? Obviously, you want to have more that you agree with than less, especially in a marriage, but I think we need to reject this idea of total agreement. Agree on the main things, but there are certain things that just are not worth causing splinters and major division over. They aren't. And I look at what's happening on the Republican side of the aisle here with Israel and Hamas, and I'm just like, man, you're saying you don't, that you're America first. Why are you talking about this conflict all the time? Why does it occupy 90% of your thoughts? We agree on all these other things. We may have a difference of opinion on this. Is this a reason to sever? No. And the people that just want to harp on this issue, like a Tucker Carlson, harping on it, like, dude, focus on something else. And then again, letting Fuentes just hang out like Fuentes was on his best behavior during that whole interview, and he didn't call him out on anything. I thought it was not genuine of Tucker Carlson. It's his show. He can do whatever he wants, but I think that's fair game for criticism. Do I think the guy should be canceled? I mean, no. If you don't want to watch him, just don't watch him. I mean, I think that's reasonable. You don't like somebody, you don't buy their product, you don't want to watch their show, and the market will work it out. But, I don't think it's a reasonable thing to try to destroy someone because they have a different point of view, even if it's dangerous. Nick Fuentes, I think, is a total useless dweeb. But, I mean, you want to shut down his show? All you're going to do is make it more popular. And so I reject the whole let's cancel them completely kind of thing. Just don't watch their show. Don't platform them. And I would say that's probably a reasonable criticism of Tucker Carlson on this is why would you give this guy a platform? If you wanted to understand him, then go have an iced tea with the guy. But don't put him on your show. I thought that was irresponsible. Cancel worthy? No. Irresponsible? Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you know what Nick Fuentes says day in, day out, it's like that guy does not deserve to be platformed by anyone. I mean, that's why back in the old TikTok days and somebody wanted to debate me, I'm like, I'm not going to platform you. I'm not going to let you have access to the audience that I've built just because you think you're entitled to it. You're nuts. Anyway, back to Dave Ramsey. 50-year mortgage. This is something that's been floated out there by Trump, and also a 15-year car loan. I got to tell you, I think this is absolutely It's not a good idea for someone who's trying to build wealth and get out of debt at all. I understand why it's being proposed as a way to lower someone's monthly payment. But when you look at the interest that you pay over 50 years, you're paying double for the price of the house. Now, I've heard the argument that, well, if we're talking about investment property, where you bought a property and someone's renting, a 50-year mortgage would help your cash flow. I get that. I do. I don't think this program, though, is intended for investors. It's intended for people to be able to afford a house. So I get where it's coming from. I don't begrudge President Trump for throwing it out there, but a 50-year mortgage, no one's going to be rich after paying for a house for 50 years. You're never going to pay it off. And then when you die, basically all it is it's a long-term payment plan. It's not an ownership plan. That might work for some people, but it's not a good long-term wealth strategy. I mean, the strategy would be that at some point you pay off your house, ideally, and you have that free and clear that you could do other things, with loans against the equity if you wanted to. But if you look at the actual interest payments over 50 years, I mean, a 30-year mortgage, you're still paying way more for the house. Now, most people don't carry that whole mortgage all the way out, right? And that's true. That's true. I wouldn't advise someone to do it if someone were asking me. But I get you're able to have a lower monthly payment. I get it. That doesn't do anything, though, about property taxes or insurance. I mean, to me, a lot of these, the focus should be lowering or eliminating property taxes. Okay, that's something that would automatically save people on their monthly payments, right? We also, I mean, the more housing there is, the more supply there is, that is going to help with home prices coming down or at least staying stable. And that would be another way to do it. So anyway, it's still just a hilarious headline story with Dave Ramsey on there. So yeah, here's what I would say. I mean, I think President Trump has been doing the right thing, focusing on getting deals to stimulate our economy here at home with countries abroad. He's been spending a lot of time focusing on those deals, eliminating wars and all those things. And look, you come into a house and it's on fire, you've got to put out the dangerous parts first, and that's what he's done. Now I hope that the focus will really, really, really dive into and be keyed in on how do we get prices lower on things here. Because I've heard this from multiple people on the right. President Trump says prices are down. They're not. The prices of eggs are down. Yes. Price of gas is down. Yes. And all those things are affected by that. Now, you could argue, though, a lot of the reason we're in the situation we're in is because of Biden, because of the extra stimulus and the bad decisions, monetary decisions that were made when it comes to inflation. And you would be right about all those things. And it's not fair to expect President Trump to come in and in less than a year fix all of that. It's really impossible. Now, you could also argue that President Trump said that he would. Oh, we'll get that fixed so fast you won't even know it. And I get it. I mean, he's a salesman, and he's very positive. He's a very positive thinker. That's how he's been so successful. And so all of those factors, I get it. I'm not being critical of Trump. I am not saying he's doing anything wrong. I'm saying now we're at a point where a lot of focus, or at least a lot of talk, has to be devoted to getting costs down for Americans. Because in reality, our price is down on some stuff, but it needs to be talked about in the forefront, and any wins need to be promoted on the media, on and on and on, so people feel it. That's a big part of this game, is if people feel like prices are down or they feel like the economy is going in the right direction, it does help because, consumer confidence happens. Now, I remember after the last tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, you had a lot of these companies come out and say, we're giving not loans, we're giving bonuses and we're doing this and we're doing that. And it's like, oh, wow, they're passing it on. And that was a huge consumer confidence, investor confidence boost. I am hoping something like that happens maybe after the first of the year. Also, the uncertainty with Chinese tariffs and those kind of things is not helping either. So there are some factors that could very well push things in the right direction in a short amount of time. But I back to my original point, and that is I really hope that becomes almost the sole focus of what this administration is doing. They've put all these pieces into place: lower drug prices, stimulating the economy, lowering this price, lowering gas prices, a huge one. I would say energy prices as it relates to utility bills, I have not seen those come down. Maybe some of you could tell me if you have seen that. That would be super helpful. So I think there are things that could be done right now that we would feel and we would notice, but the uncertainty with especially the Chinese tariffs specifically are causing people to hold back, and they're not quite doing some of the things or reducing rates or whatever because they don't know how it's going to play out. And that's why I say it is very important to get that totally solidified. They're moving in the right direction, but I really hope they get this thing done soon. Okay. I want to show you some of the ways that people get totally hoodwinked on the media coverage of certain things. The headline is, especially on Veterans Day, Memorial to Black U.S. soldiers who died in World War II quietly removed. And I've seen people posting on X, how racist, the Trump administration is racist. This memorial to a Black U.S. soldier who died got removed because he's Black. Well, when you go way down into the fine print of the article, you realize that it is a rotation that features certain soldiers in this exhibit that they're talking about, and it was time for the Black soldiers display to be rotated out. Do they add that in? No. Is it completely normal that these things rotate? Yes. But because he was Black, they made this big deal about it and tried to imply racism. So Newsweek, you are the devil. Congratulations. But again, this is how these people, they become indoctrinated. Here's another one. You have this illegal immigrant in this car with a child. He's having a seizure. How could they take this? I mean, this is a brutal looking visual here. It looks horrible. This guy's having a seizure. He's holding a baby. The cops are trying to get him. Oh my gosh. The humanity. Why are they doing this to this guy? ICE is trying to take him. What is wrong with you? You hear all the liberal white women around there. Stop yelling at her because you feel insecure. Stop psychoanalyzing me, lady. All right, so you see that and you go, oh my gosh, that's not a good look. Well, now it's time for the rest of the story. Imagine faking a seizure. This is from Homeland Security. Imagine faking a seizure to help a criminal escape justice. The target of this operation, should I read it like Paul Harvey? The target of this operation, Juliana Milena Ojeda Montoya, is the worst of the worst. I can't do it. He's a legend. I shouldn't even try. Good day. In August of 2025, local police arrested Ojeda Montoya. My name is a criminal illegal alien from Ecuador for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon after she stabbed her coworker twice with a pair of scissors and then threw a trash barrel at her. All right, the scissors were far enough, but then you threw trash at her. What's wrong with you? Ojeda Montoya was released into the country by the Biden administration in 2023 during ICE's targeted vehicle stop. Her child and husband were in the car. The target threw the child into the arms of her husband while he purported to have a medical episode, though he refused medical help and displayed absolutely no signs of medical concerns just moments later. Emergency medical personnel on the scene found no legitimate medical episode. ICE even called 911, and the illegal alien refused any medical care. I guess he wasn't that bad off. Agitators attempted to impede the arrest. Fitchburg police responded to the scene to help with crowd control. And now you know the rest of the story. Dude faked a seizure in the middle of all that because he had an audience, had no medical issues before or after. Okay? But of course, they want to generate this manufactured empathy over the situation with the guy having the seizure and the baby. Like, you want to talk about these people and go, oh, I mean, we told you last week there was this woman who fled from ICE into a preschool. And guess what liberals said? ICE arrested this immigrant who is a preschool teacher in front of her kids, in front of her students. That was all totally wrong. But let's actually look at the situation as it is. These people ran from authorities into a place where there were children, creating a potential dangerous situation. Same is true with this pretend seizure guy, where the woman who is an alleged, did she actually kill the person? She just stabbed them. Assault with a deadly assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. This woman dumped her child into this other guy's arms in the front seat of the car, putting her child in danger, just throwing her kid around. I mean, these are not the responsible ones that you need to have empathy for. They're the ones doing irresponsible things when it comes time to be apprehended. Does that mean it's ICE's fault that these people act crazy because they're trying to be apprehended? No. How do you blame the perpetrator, the criminal, when they act erratically when it's time to be held accountable? That's not the people's fault that are trying to hold them accountable. Sorry, that's called skirting responsibility, and it has absolutely no basis in truth. Sorry, not sorry. All right, let's look at some of your chats. Why don't we do that? David Sling says meat prices really are through the roof right now. Yeah, I know President Trump is doing some things for farmers. He says he's going to help with that. I mean, it did not make some of the farmers happy that we agreed to buy some Argentinian beef, but I know it's a priority for President Trump. Here's the thing about President Trump. He may do something and you say, that doesn't make any sense. Usually he has some plan, okay? Believe me, I've been wrong about him multiple times, so now I just go, I don't really like this on the surface level, but the guy is smart and he typically has a reason. It may not be obvious right now, but typically later on it is. However, I'm still waiting from some of you to tell me what the heck was the deal with Matt Gaetz, because that has never panned out. Okay, that never panned out, that whole situation. But anyway, let's see. I do not think that means what you think it means. I don't know. What did I say? Let's see. Bree says, I am so sick and tired of hearing the right say that prices are down when people are still hurting so freaking bad. I know it's a process, but they need to be honest. I agree. I think what needs to be said is, hey, hang tight. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. Hang on. Gaetano says, agreed. Messaging. Bree says property taxes should not exist anyway. Gaetano says cheaper payments, smaller down payment. Yeah, that's the 50-year mortgage. Mostly Penny in the chat says 50-year home rentals. Let's see. And also, cars don't last 14 years nowadays. Yeah, a 15-year loan on a car. I mean, I don't know. What will it really affect? It basically means you never get out of debt. And then you go, well, a lot of people are never going to be out of debt anyway. So is it making that big of a difference? Because you're in debt for 7 or 8 years on this car, you trade it in, you get is it more like the cell phone racket that we're in right now, where it's like, okay, you can get this phone and it's a $50 extra payment on your bill. Okay, well, I want to get the new phone. Okay. And just you're always having to upgrade, and so you're always staying with that extra payment. Maybe that's the effect. And you say, well, that's not that big of a deal. I would say probably true, but if you really want to build wealth, you got to get out of debt. And so are we really saying it's better to have a house that you can't really afford because the payments are drawn out for so long and you're always you're forever in debt? I mean, I don't know that it's a good trade-off. Oh, you can get a house, but you're going to be in debt. You'll never be out of debt. And some people say, well, I'll never pay off my house anyway. Okay, but you could. I mean, Dave, that's why Dave Ramsey would be like, no way. And Dave Ramsey wants you to have a 15-year mortgage. Ideally. Let me tell you, you get a 15-year mortgage, you pay off your house. Whew. Let's see. Oh, yes. My name is Diego Montoya. ICE arrested my father. I look for the six-finger agent. Gaetano says Matt Gaetz is an OAN host now. Yes, I know, but there was always this thing that, they've got, Matt Gaetz and President Trump have some secret plan because they said, very soon you're going to find out. Well, then Matt Gaetz drops out of Attorney General. I mean, he resigns as a congressman, drops out of the Attorney General candidacy, and then goes and becomes a host, and nothing has happened with him. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. There was a lot of thought like, this is a strategy. Well, if it is a strategy, it's taken a long time. That's kind of what I mean. Like I say, President Trump a lot of times has like a plan that doesn't seem obvious at the time, and then later on you're like, oh. And I'm just being facetious because the Gates one was one that, looked like it could be. I think the dude just got out of Congress because of what was coming down on the allegations. And, he was going to be Attorney General. That was sort of what they had up their sleeve. And then everybody just imploded on him. So mostly Penny, you'll own nothing. You'll own nothing and you will like it. that from 1984? Okay, Gaetano, I remember now that you said it. It is interesting at the speed at which politics and news works these days. That seems like that was 5 years ago, doesn't it? And I mean, it's easy to forget this stuff. It just popped in my head. So, yeah. Anyway, here's the thing that I can say about the 50-year mortgage and the 15-year mortgage, or the 15-year car payment, which might as well be a mortgage. They're ideas, okay? They're ideas that are being put out there, programs that are being put out there. We're trying something different. I say points for doing something different, at least trying things. Not saying that anybody should try those things, but at least they're ideas that are out there. They're options. Let's keep going. Let's keep putting together some more options. Let's keep thinking about other options, and let's keep going. Let's keep going. By the way, in case you're confused about the show time, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. So this Thursday, I hope you will be back. I'm not ending the show. This is just right in the middle. I'm just giving you a little reminder. So that is something you need to know and something you need to remember. So then come Thursday, you are back, and bring somebody with you. We were doing this show in the afternoon. We had good traction. We moved it to the morning to try to get some of Bongino's audience when he went off, and things have sort of deteriorated since. We're back in the afternoon where everybody said they wanted us. And so we need to keep bringing those same people that were here. We need them back. So if you know them, reach out to them and say, hey, 3 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, Ike is back. Gaetano says you could get your foot in the door with a 50-year mortgage, then refinance or sell with higher equity. That is true. That is true in a sense. You're still, I mean, if we're just talking dollars and cents, a 50-year mortgage, you're going to pay on it for 5 years and barely pay down anything the way these things are amortized. Okay, so you live in a house for 5 years, you barely paid it down. You've paid all that interest, and then you refi. There's a cost to refi. So it may feel like it's not as invasive, but as far as straight up money you're spending versus equity you're gaining, with the 50-year mortgage and that amortization schedule, it's it's not going to be like it is with a 30-year. So just something to think about. David's saying you'll own nothing is World Economic Forum stuff. David's saying Matt has been a good host, but it's on Salem News. He may just be cooling his jets. Well, he definitely has a show on OAN at night. Does he have a radio show or something on Salem? Unless he got fired or moved recently. Maybe he did. Bree knows what's up. We did a 15-year mortgage, and we are on year 13. Oh, my gosh. Imagine that. Well done. Gaetano says, well, that would only work otherwise. It would work otherwise unless you're someone who couldn't afford a home. Yeah, and that's kind of my concern is the 50-year mortgage will open the door for maybe people who can't afford a home or can't afford to be sitting on something where, their equity is not growing much faster than their payoff. And, then they're in a bad spot. You never heard of the Great Reset. Is you'll own nothing from the Great Reset? Let's find out the origin of this. Definitely heard of the Great Reset. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Extended to, or you'll own nothing and then you'll own nothing and be happy, originates from a 2016 essay titled Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better, written by a Danish politician, Ida Auken, member of the Danish Social Democrats. The essay to David Sling got it. The essay was published on the World Economic Forum website as a speculative piece envisioning a sharing economy dominated future, which, to Gaetano's point, would be something they would bring in. Yes. Okay, here we go. A screenshot from the video that said you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Whatever you want, you'll rent, and it'll be delivered by drone. A screenshot with that on it, showing a smiling man with overlaid text, went viral on social media starting around 2020, particularly in discussions around the WEF's Great Reset initiative, transforming the phrase into a meme often used critically to symbolize fear of eroding personal property rights and a dystopian corporate-controlled society. All right, very good. You guys are on top of it. Okay. Sounds like 1984. Indeed. Okay. Very good. Good job. Okay, then. Very good. All right. Yes, I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with all the things, or a lot of the main points in the Great Reset. They almost got it. They almost made it happen. But then we had the Great Awakening. The Great Awakening, right? All right. Let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG. That's what I call her. Boy, she has been coming out against Trump a lot, hasn't she? What do you guys think's going on with her? Well, she is pointing out something that is one of those puzzling things. Again, back to the president doing things that we don't fully understand. Yesterday in the White House, the new leader of Syria, who's a former Al-Qaeda terrorist wanted by our government, met with President Trump at the White House on the Marines' 250th anniversary. He rose to power, and this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, by the way. This guy rose to power in December of 2024. Sanctions were lifted off Syria in June, and many Christians and minority groups have been killed before and after sanctions were lifted, and that's true. Syria is the oldest home of Christianity outside of Israel. The Apostle Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus. I pray the persecution ends not only in Syria, but all around the world. However, I would really like to see nonstop meetings at the White House on domestic policy, not foreign policy, and foreign countries' leaders. She says, start by hauling in the health insurance company executives, and let's start formulating our Republican plan to save America and Obamacare and ACA tax credits that have skyrocketed the cost of health insurance. So this guy, Al-Jawlani, had a $10 million bounty a year ago. And then he became the Syrian leader. And yesterday he was at the White House. And people are going, what is this terrorist doing in the White House? And some people say, well, these radical Muslims are playing the long game. They're playing the long game. They're acting cool now, but 3 years from now, they won't. It upset a lot of people. It upset a lot of military people yesterday. Marjorie Taylor Greene is certainly frustrated with the lack of activity, the lack of progress that the House has made, and I would say she's right. Now, what I would argue for people like MTG and Thomas Massey and Rand Paul is you can disagree with your party, but have those disagreements if you can, have them privately, hash them out. And you say, well, what if they go in and their mind's not changed? They come out and they vote against something. They have to, they don't have to give the reason. They don't have to lambast their own party. Now, if the party's totally off, okay, but there's an argument to be made that it's one thing to be on the House floor, Senate floor, giving a reason why you oppose something. It's another thing to be doing these media tours where you are being highly critical of your own party and the president. What do you guys think? Let me know in the chat. Marjorie Taylor Greene throwing it out there. I think she's right about this Syrian guy. Why is he in the White House? Now, President Trump very well may have a very good reason for it. I think the skepticism comes in that does President Trump know the history that this guy has? Have his people fully briefed him? There is some question there because we've seen that happen before where he's not fully illuminated into what's going on. And you can't be. When you're the president of the United States, you can't know everything about everything, even though President Trump does a pretty good job of knowing a lot about a lot. But it's impossible to expect him to know everything about everything. So he has to rely on his aides and advisors to brief him. And so, is he fully aware of the guy's history, or does he have some plan in place to neutralize Syria? I mean, we do know that Christians have been killed there. So was that discussed? That would be, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's what happened or not. I didn't see it. But if you guys know, let me know. David Sling says that Marjorie Taylor Greene has been exposed to Candace. Candace wins. Maybe so. MTG is really good friends with Tucker Carlson. And that's probably part of it too. They're probably texting. Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, I can't believe this. Tucker's like, oh! Right? It's possible. And this is, I mean, people can have different points of view and still be part of the same party. It's just, I don't know. There's just so much infighting right now. I'm okay with it happening on the Democrat side, but I don't like it when it's happening among conservatives. If it's conservatives against rhinos because the rhinos are not actually adhering to the Republican platform of small government, I'm okay with that because you're holding them accountable to the party that they say they are a member of, but they're not adhering to. Okay, that's different than having a different opinion on what happens, with Israel, or a different opinion on how far should we go in support of Israel, or even, having a different opinion on, what happened with Charlie Kirk, even. Like, to me, there's a whole lot of fighting going on about things that should be respectful disagreements and move on, not divisive, down to the core of who these people are. That's what's troubling to me. So, and I also want to say, you can be supportive of Israel and not love what the government does, not love what Bibi Netanyahu does. I think And if you don't like what the government of Israel is doing, you shouldn't be called an anti-Semite. But you also shouldn't villainize people who believe in supporting the people of Israel and call them frickin' Christian Zionists. I think it's ridiculous. I mean, I think this whole issue has become so divisive, it is totally taken over people's minds and soul, to where that's like all they think about, and everything they think of is a Jew-shaped hole. I don't know. That did not come out right. But, you're trying to fit, square peg into a round hole, but there's just a lot of that And I would challenge you, actually, I'm going to tell you right now, I would challenge people that are struggling as Christians when it comes to what part Israel plays in our lives. I challenge you to go to YouTube or wherever Grace to You is with John MacArthur and listen to this series. The series is titled, Has God Canceled His Promises to Israel? Because there's this whole theory out there that, the Bible's not talking about Israel anymore after Christ. The Bible's talking about the Christian church. And I would challenge you that Scripture is specific on it. And John MacArthur does an exceptional job. I'm on part 5. I don't know how many parts it is, but I'm telling you, listen to all of them, because every one of them that you listen to, you will learn something else about this complex situation. And the thing that I come back to is it doesn't really matter what I think. It doesn't really matter what you think. It matters what God thinks. And he has spelled it out in here, and you don't have to like it. But if you really want to follow what God says about it, then you ought to know what he actually says about it. Okay? And so I think John MacArthur does an exceptional job of laying it out expositionally, verse by verse, through Romans 11 to really help illuminate the things of the past that illuminate the things of today. My hope is you don't have to love Bibi Netanyahu. Okay, that's not my hope. My hope is that whether or not you don't like what the government's doing, my hope is that you'll come away with a better understanding of what God intends for Israel, the nation of Israel, and the remnant of believers that he will bring to himself in the last days, and the role that Gentiles play now as it relates to the Jewish people. So please do yourself a favor. This conversation continues to come up if you're having any conversations at all with different people, and this is probably the most talked about subject, at least on the right. I want to know what God says about it. And John MacArthur was not God, but he was the best preacher of our time. And I don't think you can listen to this and say he doesn't know what he's talking about. You don't have to agree with everything that he says, but holistically, I don't think you can say he doesn't know what he's talking about. It definitely was eye-opening for me, and I've been studying this for a while, and there's plenty of people that have helped me along the way see different parts of it, the whole picture here. But even after all the conversations I've had with very well-studied people and reading the scripture, it was still quite illuminating as to the entire plan here. So again, has God canceled his promises to Israel? You can find it on the Grace to You YouTube page. I'm sure you can find it in the Grace to You podcast. It's free, of course, but please check it out. I think it's really, really important. This morning, I was asked about Marjorie Taylor Greene. This was not on the list of topics, but thankfully, yours truly consumes media and knows what's going on out there and can speak off the cuff about Marjorie Taylor Greene this morning on Newsmax.
Sure, it's not just for Democrats who have problems internally. Republicans do too. President Trump saying Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG, has, quote, lost her way. The Republican Congresswoman has been very critical of the president and those within her party in recent weeks. What do you make of this sudden shift or change of thoughts from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Yeah, it's a little odd. She's going on The View and some of these and CNN. And it seems to me, if I'm just making a prediction, that she is going to be running for some other office or something in the future because she's positioning herself back toward the middle. But it really is unfortunate if you're on social media and you're on the right and you're looking through what people are saying today. Unfortunately, the conflict in the Middle East has been a big part of that. And it is causing division and fractures. And I would just love to appeal to everyone this morning that, look, we agree on more than we disagree about. Let's call out the rubbish and let's move on together and unite with the common interests for the American people's future rather than squabbling over and over and over and trying to find out what makes us different.
Yeah, it seems like she may be eating too many sour grapes. You mentioned
She's been eating a lot of sour grapes. Yeah, I think she probably has. But anyway, off the cuff answer. I don't know what Marjorie Taylor Greene's up to, but I do know that all this division is not helpful. We are not strong when we are divided. Okay, trying to unify America here. One comment at a time, right? Ish. All right, let's see what you're saying here. Here we go. Bree says, your laugh sounded just like Tucker Carlson. I find it really interesting. Oh my gosh. There's something wrong with me. I mean, you're thinking it. You're right. You're right. David Slink says they are trying to play every one of us on different sides concerning Israel. You're right. I'm telling you, this is demonic. Okay? I'm just going to go there. It's a demonic, divisive spirit that is happening throughout all of this. We've got to reject it, even if we don't know the answers. But I would say go do. I've just given you a huge resource of information. But even if we don't agree on it, why are we picking this as the line in the sand that we can no longer get along? Mostly Penny says, didn't Shapiro just point out that you should live where you can't afford to? Where you can afford to is what he said. You should just move where you can afford to live. Yeah, you shouldn't move where you can, you shouldn't live where you can't afford to live, is what he said. So, Gaetano says we are all the children of Israel. Let's see here. Gaetano says, Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat is up next year in 2026. Typically, people that are running in 2026 are having to file to run now. At least in the state of Arkansas, the election's not for another year. But in order to get the primaries out of the way, now it depends on the party when you have to declare. But I know for Republicans right now, they're having to declare they're running now. Democrats, I believe, as well. I was told earlier that libertarians don't. But that being said, if she's running in 2020, because, I mean, every one of these, in the House of Representatives, it's a 2-year deal, which can you imagine? You get elected and then you're right back to doing another campaign a few months later. I mean, it's kind of crazy, 8, 9, 10 months later. Woo. So they're only 2-year terms. And so, you're sort of always up for re-election to an extent. I mean, you get that first session. Well, even though the sessions last an entire year, You basically have that 1 year, and then you're right back into a re-election year. So I don't know when in Georgia they have to declare by. Maybe we can ask Grok. Why should we wonder when we can just ask? When do federal candidates have to in Georgia? Okay. All right, so they don't have to file until March. Okay, which is $5,000 for U.S. Senate, $3,600 for U.S. House. Here in the state of Arkansas, the freaking Republican Party upped. I believe the Senate is now 40,000 that you have to. Maybe one of them's 50. The governor, I think, is 50. U.S. representatives, Congress, 30,000 just to get your name on the ballot for the primary. It's not a state law. This is a self-imposed Republican law for the party that the higher-ups in the Republican Party voted on. Okay? The rest of the party didn't get to vote. These are the people at the top. Guess why they do it? They keep out anybody from challenging them. Because who's going to pony up 40 grand if you're not a super well-connected person? It's robbery. And I'm telling you, these are the kinds of things that are going to be happening throughout these parties in the various states. You need to join the Republican Party in your state, go to the county committee, become a member, and start rooting out this crap. It starts one person at a time. And I know there's a lot of people that are feeling disenfranchised, or they're feeling very, what's the word? They're basically, they're downtrodden. They're feeling defeated. There's a word I'm trying to think of and I can't, but basically, people feel disenfranchised, I guess might be the right word. They just feel like it's hopeless, and why would I need to do that? And it's hopeless. There's no way. I'm telling you, it starts one person at a time. Good people that are about the Constitution and we the people, and we can rid this crap out and make it go all the way to the top and change it. But if you don't have the numbers for people with, integrity and transparency, you're never going to make a change. And it starts one person at a time. So I know that there's a lot of this kind of division happening throughout the Republican Party in states all over the country. So please consider becoming part of the solution, not just part of the complaint train. And we can overturn this kind of crap. But back to the point, in Georgia, it's a lot less to run for Senate than it is in the state of Arkansas. It's $5,000. In Georgia, it's $40,000. In Arkansas, it's insane. Anyway, back to the point, Gaetano. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't have to file for whatever she's going to run for until March. So this could be her strategy. March is roughly 3-4 months away. So do you think it would be part of the strategy if you're going to run for something else? About 5 to 6 months prior to that, you start changing the conversation. You start shifting the perception. That'd be about right on a strategy scale. I don't know. Something going on. Speaking of something going on, John Solomon of Just the News reporting that the Clinton corruption files are coming. Bondi, Patel, unleash new evidence about former First Family Foundation. Officials say evidence sent to Congress raises fresh concerns that government officials kept evidence from prosecutors. Did you look at that? You guys heard about this? The Clinton plan, right? Let's see. Okay. Attorney General Pam Bondi, Director Kash Patel produced to Congress a new cache of documents showing how Bill, I tell you what, Hillary, we need to start a foundation. We'll call it the Clinton Family Foundation. We'll do nothing for families, but we'll get rich. What do you say? Bill and Hillary Clinton's foundation collected donations from foreign and domestic interests seeking influence, raising fresh concerns that such evidence was kept from federal prosecutors who tried to investigate pay-to-play allegations against the former First Family during the Obama administration. He called it off. Don't want to do it. Call off the dogs. Apparently, these documents were recently transmitted, unlike an STD, to the Senate Judiciary Committee in recent days and detail numerous instances of foreigners and even a U.S. defense contractor seeking to curry favor with the Clintons through donations to their family charity, which Hillary Clinton served as Secretary of State at the time. Officials said some of the evidence was flagged by whistleblowers who claimed that such evidence was kept from a corruption investigation that was being conducted in 2015 by the Little Rock, Arkansas U.S. Attorney's Office before it was shut down by the Obama administration's Justice Department. Hey, Barack, you think you can shut this thing down? They're doing this thing down here in Little Rock. They're looking into it. I don't think it's going to be good, Barack. Bill, I think we can do it. We'll do it. The documents will make clear that there was an effort to obstruct legitimate inquiries into the foundation by blocking real investigation by line-level FBI agents and DOJ field prosecutors and keeping them from following the money. Officials have been gathering this evidence for a few weeks and have dubbed the documents the Clinton corruption files. Bondi and Patel hope to make the documents public by as soon as the end of the week once they work through some issues protecting whistleblower identities. Okay, well, you definitely need to protect those whistleblowers because we know what happens when you cross a Clinton. You end up Clintoned. I'll tell you what, we need to get rid of that guy. He's talking too much. Make it look like a suicide. All right, so there you go. Always love a good Clinton story for the chance to bring out the Bill Clinton impression. Let's see what you are saying. Gaetano says, cash. Release the cash. That's right. Mostly Penny says, I've decided I want to run for political office, and I'm going to be the next big stock trader like Nancy. You can do it. I believe in you. You can do it. David Sling says, the money that is given for those big filing fees, they then turn around and take that money and advertise against you, right? Well, technically in the primary, the Republican Party is not supposed to pick a favorite and help them financially in the primary. So in the general, yes, they're going to do that. Yes. But not in the primary. They can't pick, they're not supposed to do that. And they don't, because all of it has to be disclosed financially. If they do, it's a violation. That would obviously become very big deal. They will give money sometimes in a primary if the person is running unopposed, but usually not very much. So, but I think, the point of it is not necessarily to generate the money. The main point is they're trying to keep people out of challenging these incumbents. These backwoods rednecks that want to come out here and run for office. This all happened after a guy ran against Steve Womack in the primary, I believe in 2020. What would that have been? 22, or maybe it's 2020. Anyway, it was a young guy. He was able to get, a decent amount of votes. But I think Congressman Womack thought it was beneath him to have to run against a guy who had suspenders that had Confederate flags on them. But the guy was able to garner a decent amount of votes. Well, it's going to make somebody think twice about throwing their hat in the ring when they have to pony up 30 grand for a congressional race. But it happened after that guy ran. That's when the prices went way up. And then it worked to an extent, even though he got a challenger and almost lost. But what I'm saying is, I guess the Republican Party of Arkansas liked it because they went ahead and then tacked on big fees to file for these other races as well. And it's not anywhere close to what other states are doing. I mean, that's what makes it look so bad. It's like, oh, Arkansas is on the forefront. They're trailblazers in so many ways. No, not really. But when it comes to high filing fees to run in the Republican Party, then yes, it is. Wow, it's weird. Arkansas picks and chooses awkward things, odd things to be trailblazers on. Basically, it's a way to silence we the people. But anyway, the money that's given is not really intended to be spent against primary opponents, but rather, I think, as a deterrent for people to throw their name in the ring on the race. It's a great question. Let's see. Gaetano is putting his money where his mouth is. He says, that's what I do. I'm a board member at the Westchester, New York Republican County Committee, New York 17, Lawler's District. I am the president of the NYS PAC and also run a community nonprofit. Gaetano he is the hands and feet out there. Well done, sir. Well done. I love it. Mostly Penny's on the jaded train today. I'm convinced that no matter what is found, nobody will be held accountable until a Democrat is in the White House again. Then God help everyone associated with or named Trump. Well, that's probably true. I don't know. I'm with you. I'm still holding out hope that there's going to be some accountability. I know the Epstein files took a lot out of the sales for a lot of people, but I'm hoping there's a good reason for that. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm cautiously optimistic, I would say. Bree says, have you ever thought about running for office? I have thought about it, and then I've thought better of it. No, I've been asked probably, 15 times in the last week if I'm going to run for the filing tomorrow. And I'll just tell you, I don't know. I'm going to leave it alone. A lot of people are wondering. I've gotten calls from elected officials saying, what are you doing? I did a little trolling, over the weekend and put it out there, implying that I was thinking about running because I kind of was. And I kind of am. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But I put it out there to kind of stir the pot. I was doing a little bit of a Trump thing, let's put this out there, see what happens. Well, it definitely got some people's attention. But yes, I've thought about it. At the same time, I've thought against it because Well, one, it costs a ton of money just to get in the race. And I've been part of these races and I know what it takes. But also, we have to do what we're called to do. And I love the media. I love being part of the media. I love being part of the process. I love being, an observer of what's going on, a political junkie. I like delivering the news. I like delivering information and commentary. I like holding these people accountable. I think it's really hard once you get in the system not to become corrupted, at least to some level. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it is more probable. And I think I would find it really hard. I understand. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. That happens. That happens everywhere. It happens in business. It's just one of those things that happens relationally when you are involved in transactions and bills. And I mean, these are transactions to an extent. So I understand that that's just going to happen. I get it. And I'm not totally against that as long as you're not compromising your morals and your principles. So I get some of that. But there comes a point, the deeper you get in there, that people become so fearful of getting defeated and losing an election that they compromise their integrity. And I would just find it very difficult to not be authentic. If you watch the show, I say what I think about stuff, and sometimes I shouldn't. And sometimes I have to set the record straight on some subject because I want to make sure I'm clear about it. Or I have to give my opinion on something because I don't stay silent on something because I'm like, well, I do have an opinion on it. And I do think, this or that, right? And I feel like an obligation in my soul that I have to communicate it. I think I would have a really hard time in an elected official position having to be controlled in that way. And so I've thought about that, and I just thought, I think I would probably feel quite limited and would not be able to be genuine as I would like to be able to. And I think that might drive me crazy. I would love to make a difference. I would love to serve my country in that way. At this point, I do not know. I just do not know that that's in the plan. I don't know. I can't say. So I'm working many media angles right now. If those were 100% solidified and revenue generating, I would tell you there's no chance at all I'm running. And I say that because it's like, well, if one avenue's not coming together like you think it should, does that mean that's not what you should do? Those are the conversations that you have internally sometimes as well. This isn't advancing like it should. Is that God telling me that I should be doing something else? So, I'm trying to be open to what he wants me to do. And if he wants you to do something, you almost can't stand to do anything else. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. That's a long explanation. David Sling says it sounds like the Matt Gaetz explanation. Yeah, that's probably what he experienced. Bree says, if you think the guy with suspenders is bad, the mayor of our little town is literally a stripper. Okay, so she says. All right. Okay, well, hey, Mayor, we need this street paved, and you just put a little dollar in her belt. That's what you're used to, right? I mean, this is how it works, right? Bree says, now that she's mayor, though, she's a reform stripper. So she says. I'm a recovering stripper. David Sling says she's showing out for her constituents. There's too many jokes. I will leave it there. Mostly Penny says, so you're saying there's a chance? I mean, there's always a chance, isn't there? 1 in a million. All right, let's talk about this. Antifa, outside of the TPUSA event last night at UC Berkeley, mocking Charlie's death, shouting, listen to this, shouting, F your dead homie. That's what they were saying. The faces of evil, although they are wearing masks, they are not so brave. People say, well, that's what ICE wears. ICE wears them to protect their own family because people have been doxing them for doing their job. Completely different thing. All right, there you go. The tolerant side. Charlie Kirk gunned down in the most public assassination of our lifetimes for no good reason. And people celebrated it online. And 2 months later, they're outside of an event saying, F your dead homie. Police had to be called in. There were some fights. Thankfully, nothing too serious. But the people that go and speak at these events, I mean, Rob Schneider was there. That Turek gentleman was there, Frank Turek. And I mean, these people are sort of risking their lives to an extent to go to these events and to speak at these events now. Why can't you just let the people have their event in peace, you fascists? Hey, if you like the show, you want to see it continue, and you want to help us cover our hard costs, I don't make a dime off this show. If we don't cover the hard costs with your contributions, then it comes out of pocket from me. So if you would like to help me continue to bring you this content, you can help us out with a $5, $10, $20 contribution right now via Cash App or Venmo. We have those links set up at IkeReport.com, Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com, or you can go to the chat on Rumble and give a contribution right there. Become a paid subscriber and get your name in red on Rumble as well for $5 a month. Okay. Mostly Penny says, I'm glad you caught the movie reference. Of course, Mostly Penny, and totally redeemed myself. Right? You know, same movie. Okay, check this out. Jack Posobiec posting this 2 weeks ago. A YouTuber named Turkey Tom had a whistleblower come forward and blow the whole toxic story open on Twigs and Tyler Robinson. All right, so this is the assassin, alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk, Lance Twigs, the furry. And in these whistleblower remarks, if they're true, they allege drugs, black market HRT, extreme sex, and a chat GPT obsession. Some of the things spelled out in this video are crazy hoarding on the part of this Twigs. Say Tyler Robinson was actually pretty level-headed, but in the months prior to the assassination, they became more and more isolated. And the theory is, or at least one of the theories being thrown around, is that Tyler Robinson basically was driven crazy by having to take care of this Twigs guy who is he's totally crazy. And so anyway, I watched this whole thing. It's on Turkey Tom's YouTube channel, and it's very interesting. We've basically been stuck in this situation where it's like the FBI is not sharing information. The FBI is not telling us stuff. What are they hiding? I get that reaction to an extent, but there's an active, prosecution and case happening. So they're not going to do something to taint the jury. I do understand it would be nice to at least get some more information about the 30-06, but we haven't had a whole lot of people come out and say much. But this definitely is illuminating, if true, into the mindset of this lover that Tyler Robinson had. Here's the other thing I'll share with you. Reading some of the Discord messages that Tyler Robinson sent, I would now say that the text messages from Tyler Robinson to Lance Twiggs were real. This dude talks like that. He messages incomplete sentences with punctuation. Not 100% of the time, but like 95% of the time. So go watch the video from Turkey Tom. The guy does it really well. And he doesn't like show, like he redacts swearing and like intense stuff. So it's not like you're going to watch it and be like traumatized. So Turkey Tom did a good job. So check it out.
I'd like to start this video by saying that.
Okay. So that's it. The Charlie Kirk Killers Discord logs is the name of it. The Charlie Kirk Killers Discord logs. That's what it is. It's there on your screen if you are interested in it. And so, again, this illuminates more into the psyche, the home situation, the timeline leading up to the assassination to at least color in some of the unknowns to where you go, okay, if this is true, then this is making more sense. Still doesn't make sense what made this guy crack. I don't know. But the big thing I got out of this is specifically I was paying attention to the way this guy typed, the style in which he would communicate, and it's very consistent with those long text messages. That still doesn't mean that that wasn't just a cover activity to try to get Lance Twiggs out of any culpability. I'm not saying that may not be true, but to me, I would put those text messages odds as more likely to be Tyler Robinson than not after reading that. So you make your own decision. Go check it out on YouTube if you're so interested. It's a sick world, my friends. It's a sick world. David Sling says, a devolution into heavy drugs and easily manipulated beta boy. Bree says, I understand they need to keep things quiet for now, but I do hope they show the trial live. They have to show the trial live. They absolutely have to. Agreed. 100%. We have to. They owe it to us. I mean, Erica Kirk said, my husband's life was in public. My husband was murdered in public. The way I grieve and our family grieves is all in public. You got to also put the trial in public so people come to understand exactly what happened. Gaetano points it out that we've never actually heard a thing about Thomas Crooks, the Butler assassin. Yeah. I don't know why that's not a big deal. Why aren't we hearing more about that? Now, when someone is killed or is dead after an assassination, you typically get all the information out there as soon as you possibly can. When someone is being prosecuted, which is pretty rare in a lot of these cases, then you would expect not to hear a lot of stuff prior to trial, but couldn't agree more, Bree. You have to. You owe it to the American people. You owe it to Charlie Kirk's family. Thank you, Bree. Bree with a big-time contribution, $100. Thank you, Bree, via Venmo. Thank you so much, Bree, for that awesome contribution. $100 Venmo contribution to help us cover our costs. Thank you so much. If you want to be a hero like Bree, then head over to IkeReport.com and you can give via Cash App or Venmo, IkeReport.com. Thank you again, Bree. All right. This story kind of hit critical mass kind of over the weekend related to the January 6th pipe bomber, Steve Baker, who works with The Blaze, which He had something else come out like several months ago, and he kind of got snippy with me on X when I pointed out something that wasn't. So I'm just remembering that right as I'm saying his name. Anyway, this might be the biggest scandal, he says, and conspiracy in American history. Many heroes were involved in bringing this to light. Some we can name in coming days, some who want no recognition, and there's much more to this yet to be told. Basically, they're alleging that this woman, who was a Capitol police officer, who then worked for the CIA, was this person that was the January 6th pipe bomber. And the way that they were able to match her with a 94 to 98% accuracy was the gait of her walk. She was injured terribly as a soccer player in college and has a distinct limp. And so they're doing it all based on the way the lady walks. What's interesting is they had tracked the alleged pipe bomber to the door, to the next door apartment or next door condo or something to this woman, allegedly, according to Kyle Seraphin. He says some things that, I mean, he says that Kash Patel's girlfriend is a honeypot Mossad agent who's never been to Israel, by the way, and is not Jewish. So I take what he says with a grain of salt, but he said, I believe as an FBI agent, I believe at the time, they were staking out the unit next door to her. So maybe they improperly identified that door as the one that this person may have gone into. He says that he requested to do a knock and talk where they went, door to door, knocking on doors and just asking questions. And his superiors told him to stand down. Okay. So there's some really odd things that are kind of coming together here. But again, it's based on a walk. So, but I mean, there are other details as well. But I've seen some people kind of walking this back a little bit today. So I'm not completely sure where it stands right now. This was last night on Rob Schmidt's show.
Nearly 5 years ago, January 5, 2021, a hooded character planted bombs outside the DNC and RNC headquarters in Washington, D.C. Despite the most elaborate investigation in history into January 6, which was the next day, somehow, despite a $500,000 FBI reward, the Kabuki Theater manhunt for the pipe bomber went years unsolved. But that might be changing. Investigative journalist Steve Baker with Blaze Media claims a forensic analysis of a female former U.S. Capitol Police officer's gait is a 94 to 98% match of the unique stride of the long-sought J6 pipe bomb suspect, adding that this finding was confirmed by several high-level intelligence sources. A woman, a female Capitol Police officer. Baker says that female cop left the department in mid-2021, so just a few months later, for a security detail at the CIA. At this hour, no government agency has confirmed or denied this reporting. The FBI just telling us the investigation continues, not even touching our actual question about the specific officer. CIA called us back a number of times. They said they appreciated us reaching out, claimed they'd provide us with a statement. We have not gotten that yet. Capitol Police have not responded to us yet at all. Their former chief, though, is with us tonight. Stephen Sund was the Capitol Police chief on January 6, 2021, and it's good to have you on, sir. We're not naming this officer. We're not going to show her picture at this point. I want to start, though, with, do you believe that that is the person responsible for putting those two bombs down?
Again, Rob, thank you very much for having me on.
Sure.
And I am very well aware of Steve Baker's report. I've read it. Steve Baker, Joe Henneman put a lot of work into it. Again, I'm somebody that kind of works from facts, and that's kind of the way I've always been since January 6th, trying to put that out there. I would sure like to hear a statement, an official statement from one of the officials, either at FBI or DOJ. And I can tell you right now, nobody knows the impact that had on my safety and security on January 6th more than me. I know the resources I had to send to that. I know the impact it had to our overall security, and no one wants to see the pipe bomber identified more than I do. I'm just surprised that here we are 58 months later, and we still haven't gotten an official, some type of official acknowledgement or a suspect. Kash Patel's been in place over there for 8 of those 58 months.
Yeah.
They've got great technology. They've got great resources and great investigators. I certainly think they'd be able to solve this case.
All right. So we'll sort of wait and see what happens there, but certainly it reignited the interest in that. Let's see here. Oh, for President Trump's attempt at getting his hush money case pushed into a federal court for appeal, it looks like that is going to happen. The argument, based on because they use presidential testimony or things that happened while he was president to make their case, it would make it a federal case. And so a second circuit court remands the federal hush money case in the stunning ruling for President Trump. And so guess what happens if it's a federal case? President Trump can just basically make it go away like it never happened. I tell you what, a couple years ago, you'd have never believed this would happen. The deck was stacked, wasn't it? The deck was stacked against him. All right, let's get some more of your comments in here. Ha, ha, ha. David Slink says, this is also strange. Kelly Bongino's voice is poo-hooing the whole thing, but it sure as heck looks like her, what she did to the crowd of January 6th. Kelly. Is this a girl on Bongino's show, I guess, is what you're saying? Is saying this isn't real? Right? Pam is over on Facebook, says the story of the pipe bomber is cray-cray, and the amount of time Kamala hung out at the DNC office on that day. I know. The whole thing. It's like, that was weird. But by the way, they told everyone they were at the Capitol when they weren't. AOC said it. Kamala said it. They weren't there when any of that stuff happened. All right. We'll talk about that all day if we get on that. All right. A couple other bits of information here. New Hampshire's first transgender elected representative, Stacey, in air quotes, Lofton, has pleaded guilty to child exploitation charges. Stacey reportedly asked his partner, who worked in a daycare, to send him nude photos of kids. What a freak. What a freak. As Michael Knowles points out, it's always the ones you most expect, isn't it? I mean, you can't say you didn't see this coming, okay? I'm totally shocked. Oh, and there he is with what's his name? Fang's lover, Swalwell. Would you look at that? Anyway, what a freaking sicko. I mean, you could have guessed it when you hired that kind of person. Also, another sign of the times, Georgia police officer is under investigation after confronting and misgendering a man pretending to be a woman who was using the women's bathroom at a public library. The officer says, there are women and little girls in there. I have to protect them. This officer is a hero. Take a look at this special person.
The restroom, the women's restroom, like I have been for months, if not years, never had any issues.
Sarah Swinson is a regular at the Tucker Reed Kofer Library. She says after she used the ladies' room on October 20th, a DeKalb police officer on hand for early voting confronted her.
Quit calling these people her. This is ridiculous, especially these local news people. They're so woke. On a local news channel here, there was a guy who pretended to be a woman who went into the women's bathroom consistently at a large employer in Arkansas and would put his cell phone under the partition of the stalls and was filming and spying on women when they were going to the bathroom. The headline ran by local media was woman gets arrested for voyeurism in a woman's bathroom or something like that. Woman gets arrested for spying on other women. It's a dude. Stop it. Mostly Penny says, stop affirming delusion. Amen.
Says Excuse me, sir. So misgendering me right away. You're not a woman.
Misgendering me right away. I mean, this dude looks like he is literally playing a funny part, like he's Mrs. Doubtfire.
And that's obvious.
Swinson says she tried explaining to the officer that she's a transgender woman, but he got angry.
This is a police matter. There are women and little girls in there, and I have to protect them.
She says it ended up causing a scene in the middle of the library, and she tried to de-escalate.
Fine.
Can we just back up for a second? Are we sure this isn't Ross Geller dressed as a woman? You know, Ross from Friends, David Schwimmer. Just listen to the voice.
Woman, but he got angry.
This is a police matter. There are women and little girls in there, and I have to protect them.
She says it
Just a little. I mean, it seems like there's a resemblance. It could be him.
ended up causing a scene in the middle of the library, and she tried to de-escalate.
Finally, I just nodded, and he walked off, and I was very thankful.
The next day, she emailed library staff, who she says reached out to DeKalb County Police.
The library filed the complaint on my behalf.
There aren't any Georgia laws banning transgender people from using bathrooms aligning with their gender identity. DeKalb PD says its internal affairs unit is actively investigating the incident, but offering few details. A spokesperson said the department, quote, remains dedicated to treating all members of our community with dignity, respect, and professionalism.
Especially the girls in the bathroom. Give that guy a raise. Can we get a GoFundMe together for this officer in DeKalb County? Atlanta, DeKalb County. What do they call it there? DeKalb County, Georgia. Give this guy a raise. We need more dudes with a spine to stand up with these other dudes that, don't. I mean, please, can we give this? We need to affirm our heroes. We need to affirm the backbones. We need to affirm the courage. We need to affirm the truth. We need to affirm that there are only two genders. That's what we need to do. We need to give an affirmation bonus. When you affirm the truth out there, you are supposed to do that. That's what you're supposed to do. But when we see someone go above and beyond in this situation, we should reward them. We should do a GoFundMe and give this guy, a hero's tip, if you will, a little hero's, cash reward for what he did. But I mean, what a joke. I mean, I'm watching this news story. And for those of you just listening, I'm sorry, but to see the visuals of this dude literally trying to pretend with a straight face that he is a woman when his voice is so obviously a dude, and just the impressions he's doing, like everything about this is cosplay. Everything about this is pretend land. Like it literally could be an SNL joke 10 years ago, 15 years ago. He was all like, there's little girls in here. I'm trying to protect them. It's like, okay. And then the way he walks around like this. Like, literally, it's like what a dude would think you have to do to be a woman. Like, just flip your hand over and then just walk like this. And you're a girl, right? I mean, it's cosplay. All right. Whew. Sign of the times, my friends. All right. A couple other things before we go. Hey, thank you again to Bree for that contribution. If you want to be like Bree, you can contribute right now via Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com. Make sure you share this live. Give it a thumbs up. Heart the post if you're watching on X right now. Repost. Share this live. Give us a thumbs up or whatever it is on whatever other platform you might be watching on. And help us right now before we're over today. Please do that. I see Nicholas in the chat on Instagram says, no way. Looks like Nicholas is gone. Nicholas, if you're watching this later, what was no way? Come back tomorrow and let me know what you mean. I think it might have had something to do with the Charlie Kirk assassination. Jimmy Kimmel, one of the most affected with Trump derangement syndrome, his wife and show producer say they are losing relationships with their Trump voting family. These people are sad. Totally sad. Take a look.
Thankfully, my immediate family they did not vote for Donald Trump.
Okay.
They did the first time, a few of them. We flipped them the second time. It's weird. When Donald Trump was first elected,
I mean, literally think about what she's saying. Thankfully, my immediate family, didn't vote for him. Thankfully, my immediate family agrees with me. I mean, what arrogance. Thankfully, they agree with me, so I can still have a relationship with them.
I was so upset. We all were. But I remember thinking, I understand it because I grew up in a very conservative Republican house. I mean, I bought my dad a Rush Limbaugh tie in high school. I voted Republican straight ticket, and that's what I was told to do. And then I left St. Louis, Missouri, and I met people from different backgrounds, and I started to understand
indoctrination
and different things and different needs and different people. And there's like a little bit of sympathy I have for people in my family that I feel are kind of being deliberately misinformed every day. And they're deliberately being misinformed
I mean, there's not an ounce of masculinity in this whole board. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel is one of the dudes. I guess the rest of these people are women. But I mean, every one of these people sits down to pee
every day, and they believe it. But it hurts me so much because of the personal relationship I now have, where my husband is out there fighting this man. And
fighting this man? You're telling off-color jokes and lying about an assassin.
To me, them voting for Trump is them not voting for my husband and me and our family.
Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You think that it's a binary choice between you and your if somebody has a political opinion other than what your opinion is, then therefore they are against you. You're not running for office.
And I unfortunately have kind of lost relationships with people in my family because of it. This is not just Republican versus Democrat for me anymore.
What this is people can't handle people that disagree with them. And the easiest thing they can do with their low emotional intelligence is to disown them then at that point. It's too hard to function in the same room as you if you don't agree with me. And therefore, it's easier for me to disassociate with you completely. That's not healthy. If someone is abusive and reckless and totally nasty to you and you say, I'm not going to subject myself to that abuse, that's one thing. But if you are literally disowning people because they have a different political opinion than you, that is not healthy. Let me tell you, there is nothing better for your own confidence in your point of view if you are able to defend it under duress or under challenge. If you're being challenged about it, then you have to know what you believe and you have to be able to defend it. And guess what? Maybe they bring up something you hadn't thought of and you do research and you discover something you didn't know. That can work both ways. That is called a discussion. That is called iron sharpening iron in a sense. That's healthy. If you're doing it in a respectful way to where you don't freaking hate each other afterward, I encourage it. Yes, it can be kind of annoying. Yes, it can take a lot out of you. But it is one of the best ways for you to solidify why you believe what you believe if you can defend it with information. But to literally put someone out of your house or to leave the, community you have with your own family because they don't believe what you believe, I think is a sign that you aren't really open to freedom of thought or discussion. Again, assuming her family's not abusive or yells at her or just totally nasty, that they just have a different point of view. If that's the case and she can't be around them, it just shows you she doesn't know how to defend her own point of view.
It is, to me, it's family values. And it's really hard for me because I grew up believing in these Christian ideals of taking care of the sick and taking care of the poor. And I don't see that happening with this Republican Party.
Sick and poor? What she's talking about is illegal immigrants who are killing and raping our people. How is that helping the sick and the poor, the people that can't defend themselves, the people that are victims? You talk about family values? Is chopping off the genitals of a child family values? See, I'm sure her family challenged her on this, and rather than deal with the truth, it's easier just to remove the thorn in your side, remove the truth from the equation, and then you can marinate in your own deception and delusion.
And so I feel like I'm kind of in constant conflict and I'm angry all the time, which isn't healthy at all.
You're angry all the time because people don't agree with you. That shows you are emotionally undeveloped.
But I like personalize everything now. When I see these terrible stories every day, I'm immediately mad at certain aunts, uncles, cousins who put him in power. And it's really hard. And
she sees Trump do something and she blames her aunts and uncles for voting for the guy. She blames them for what Trump does. I'm sorry. This is where you elect someone to be representative of your values. It doesn't mean everything they do is something you would do. And it sure doesn't mean that you hate your family because of what a politician does. This is absurd.
I wish I could like deprogram myself in some way, but I get really angry. And I've sent many emails to family like right before the election saying, I'm begging you, here's the 10 reasons not to vote for this guy. Please don't. And I either got ignored by 90% of them or got truly insane responses from a few. It's definitely caused a strain. I've definitely pulled in closer with the family that I feel more aligned with. And I hate that this has happened. It feels silly. Part of me goes, don't let politics get in the way. But to me, this isn't politics. It's truly values. And we're not aligned anymore.
Yeah, you're not aligned because you are liberally deranged. You're in all this trans stuff. You're in Hollywood. They live in Hollywood. You tell me who actually represents the true values of America. It's not Hollywood. That's demonic. And you sent them the 10 reasons they shouldn't vote for Trump, and you're so upset and so angry with them because they just didn't do what you said? How childish is that? How immature is that? They didn't do what you wanted them to do, and so therefore, you can't have a relationship with them. Well, maybe the 10 things you sent them, they knew weren't true. But again, just because someone doesn't do what you want them to do doesn't mean that you need to become estranged from them. That is absurd.
It's time for today's Triggered Liberal.
All right, you would think that clip was today's Triggered Liberal, but no, it's actually Keith Olbermann, the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to Triggered Liberals.
As some Democratic senatorial quislings negotiate to reopen the government for 3 months and give away Obamacare subsidies for Republican promises that they will receive magic beans later, maybe, not even receive magic beans, just get promises for magic beans. The reality is clear. Trump's mind is gone. It's so bad even the Washington Post noticed. It's so bad even the Washington Post put it on their front page. He's hyping weight loss drugs in the Oval Office and how he and he alone can bring down their price. And a weight loss patient there to extol weight loss drugs, say how safe they are, and praise Trump's wonderfulness, collapses, folds, drops, slow motion like a deflating inflatable tube man at a used car sales lot. And Trump, whose mind is gone, not only doesn't help the guy on the floor, he's offended the guy upstaged him. And then Trump, whose mind is gone, falls asleep for the second time, or as the Washington Post put it, a closer look at Trump's apparent struggles to fight off sleep in the Oval Office. A Washington Post analysis of multiple video feeds found that the president spent nearly 20 minutes apparently battling to keep his eyes open. 815 words and 4 pictures, one of Trump, whose mind is gone, with one eye closed, another with one eye closed and 2 fingers rubbing the eye, one with both eyes closed, one where you can almost see the snoring. Even the Washington Post knows it. Trump's mind is gone. In the new Countdown podcast, wherever you podcast.
What a psycho. Wow. Speaking of whose mind is gone, right? He's losing his mind over the Democrats folding, and he's saying these things about Trump. The guy fainted. He, had jet lag really bad, and it's not like that's never happened. And Trump did, go in that direction, but other people were helping him. But then later on, there was a photo where Trump turned back around and was looking at the media while it was going on, I think, trying to figure out what do we do about the media being in here, right? And then you talk about the sleep, the guy's falling asleep. I mean, he's 80 years old and he sleeps like 4 hours a day. He's always working. I don't know what he's talking about. I haven't seen it, but I know enough to know that if the dude was nodding off in a boring meeting, that could happen to any of us, but pretty much would happen to all of us if we were working 20 hours a day, nonstop, month after month after month, with no pay, by the way, that he donates back to charity. But Keith Olbermann could never fathom doing something like that. Instead, he has to rage bait people with 10% truth and 90% lie. But you can tell by looking at Keith Olbermann as he's gotten older, and the more he looks like Rosie O'Donnell, he's completely deranged, completely triggered, and totally sad.
It's time for today's Triggered Liberal.
All right, my friends, before we go, we want to say thank you again to our veterans. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. You are appreciated. You are loved. You are revered. And we are eternally grateful for your sacrifice to serve our country and the sacrifice of your family members for sharing you with our country in defense of our homeland and our interests. We greatly appreciate you and say thank you yet again. Happy Veterans Day to you. Lord willing, we are back Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to everything we're doing. Remember, it's not time to back down. It's time to double down because the truth is worth it. Have a great night.
Rate, subscribe, and leave a review. It's how we get the word out amidst the chaos. Thanks for listening to The Ike Wingate Show.